was a real estate agent, did fix and flips, did the investor stuff.
This is all in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Born and raised in Vegas. Made money like it was a Puff Daddy video from the 90s and then spent it like I was some rapper. Lost it all, by the way.
Wait, can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, what did Chris like spending money on? Okay, we got Chris on the pod. You host this beautiful studio.
Mm-hmm.
We've been working with you for a few months now. It's been going great, but I feel like we haven't really gotten to know you. We know a little bit about your ventures and stuff that you've told us about, but tell us about Chris and your kind of come up story, and because you've had some crazy achievements.
Yeah, that's the
take us back.
Part. So I'll try and tell like a quick linear story because I'll go off on tangents, just so you know. First and foremost, thank you for having me on this show. This is amazing. And very appreciated. And I say that because I see certain people come in, I'm being hella like judgy right now. Certain people come in and they have this air about them that it's just, I don't know how to arrogance, really. And you guys never had that. And I like truly appreciate it. And I say all that because going back to my childhood, I thought I was going to be a professional skater, like hardcore skating. I was in magazines, I was in videos. I thought that was going to be my path until I had a conversation with my dad right out of high school. And he was like, you either got to go to college or go do a trade, but you're not going to do this. And this motion was like so dismissive to me. And I was just like, I don't know if you cuss on your show, but like such F you, you know what I mean? Like whatever. So got my real estate license. I wasn't equipped to go to college financially or even mentally. Cause like I said, I was going to be a pro skater. I was like half checked in anyway. And really from that start, it's just been a wild ride of like real estate and business and just a bunch of shit. So I don't even know.
Well, let's start at
like
the
on
pro,
where to.
Let's start at the pro skater thing. Did you ever give that a good attempt?
I'll be honest. I thought I did, but I don't really. Now looking back in hindsight, like I never really gave it my all. You know what I mean?
So, well, what happened? So you graduate high school, and then was it like screw college? I'm out of college. I'm going to do skating. And you attempted skating?
Yeah.
Did anything ever come of it? You ever get any sponsors or anything?
Yeah. No, I picked up a couple sponsors, and I was doing stuff, and I'd go on like tour, which basically we would just go to different states, enter contests, like stuff like that. But honestly, I was just kind of out there flowing because this is also a time when like skateboarding isn't what it is now. There was no money in skateboarding back then. Like it was all just for like pure passion.
What were the companies that were around back then? My brother was sponsored by Vision Streetwear.
Yeah.
We talked about this on a previous episode briefly.
I'm not that old. So that's like the first generation. That's like the 80s generation that came up. I was the 90s era of skateboarding. So Etnies, World Industries, Blind, 101, Girl, Chocolate, Independent. Like
back when they were doing like the OG like video cassette style.
Yeah. Skating.
Fish Islands.
Yeah, skating like this, which by the way, I bring all this up because back then I was shooting video. Back then I was storytelling. Back then I was being entrepreneurial and like selling stuff and flipping stuff and just kind of doing whatever. But the main constant was like skateboarding. To this day, I still work in and around skateboarding. I work with Tony Hawk and help him on the Tony Hawk Foundation podcast and all sorts of different stuff. So when I had to make the decision of like, okay, what am I really doing? Like, am I really going to be a pro skater? Could I really do it? Like, like if I was trying to be analytical about it, I said no to myself, but honestly, I think it was just confidence mixed with maybe just laziness too. Like it just wasn't in me to like really take it to that level. The way I saw some of my friends do it, by the way, because they ended up turning pro and all this other stuff. So, but I got into real estate, and while I was in real estate, pre-boom, was a real estate agent, did fix and flips, did the investor stuff.
This is all in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Born and raised in Vegas. Made money like it was a Puff Daddy video from the 90s and then spent it like I was some rapper. Lost it all, by the way.
Wait, can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, what did Chris like spending money on back in the day?
Stupid crap. So I was the type, I grew up with no money. So imagine somebody in their young 20s making 7 figures with no real guidance or education on what or how to do with it. Now, that's not to discredit anybody that was in my life or mentors and whatnot, but like it was part that and also part, I don't think really anybody was going to tell me otherwise anyway, because I had way too big of an ego. I could do anything, like just all that, right? It was like a perfect storm combined with the real estate industry doing well. So everything from like basically all the same shit that's popular now, watches, cars, private jets. Like I remember telling all my friends, like, I feel like going to Puerto Rico. Let's all go. Knowing damn well no one could pay for it. So I wanted to be the flexy, like I'm the cool guy. At the time, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be the nice guy. No, but like if we're real, I wanted to flex. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's weird because like all the popular shit now, it was the same. It just looked maybe a tad bit different. But for the most part, it's all ayahuasca trips, all this like crazy stuff that's going on now. I'm like, oh my God. So I literally went from like I said, a 90s Puff Daddy video to like a VH1 behind the music, where it's like got into drugs. The 1 year I made like the most I ever made in my life. I was also homeless. I was like seconds from killing myself. And then here's what's crazy, by the way, on that point. I was like seconds away from killing myself, living out of the garage of the high rise that I lost that same year. And by the way, this was like before the crash. So I can't blame the economic collapse of I just did it to myself a year before everyone else. So,
and this is all from just every time you'd get paid, you were just spending it. Like how did you go from peak, like most money you made, all the way down to living in the garage?
That, I mean, drugs and a lifestyle and just, like I said, a perfect storm of a whole bunch of crap. And then not really, here's what it was. It's not that I had a drug problem. I had a life problem that I happened to fill with drugs. Certain people fill it with food. Certain people fill it with gambling, sex addiction, all this other crazy crap. I just got to a point where financially was just spending way more than I was earning. And then I reached a point that I had so much in the account and I built enough of a business of deal flow and just money coming in from all different angles that I took my foot off the gas and thought everything I touched turned to gold. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, being in your early 20s and making that much money, it'll make you feel invincible.
Mm-hmm. I thought I was. Yeah.
But okay, so I mean, just like everybody, you probably had some idea of like money's gonna fix everything. Mm-hmm. Money's gonna make me happy. Mm-hmm. Things like that. At what point did you realize like that wasn't the case for you?
I'd say realistically, like a year after I got my life together and I stopped drugs and I moved back in with my parents and like completely reset. Probably like a year, honestly, like a year or two. Maybe I thought I realized whatever, but like truly like understood it was probably a year or two after I got clean and, you know, all this other stuff.
Yeah. Respect, man.
Yeah. I mean, it was probably the greatest thing that ever happened to me, experiencing all that. Nowadays, it feels like more of a story that didn't happen because it's been so long. But even shortly after, I remembered at the time, like, the most humbling, most mind-opening, mind-altering, like, experience I ever went through.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, I went this, it's almost like a superpower that I feel I have versus other people. Going through that and then coming out the other end, you know?
Mm. Well, you learned all the skills.
Mm-hmm.
So you always had the skills. It's just fixing the drugs. Right?
No, it wasn't fixing the drugs at all because the drugs actually was the easiest thing to quit, believe it or not. In fact, towards the end of it, and you'll hear this with most people that done drugs for a period of time and got clean, they've been done a long time ago. They're just stuck in this cycle, and they're either scared of the withdrawals, or they're scared of with the shame and the guilt and having to face all the fucking shit that they've done leading up to it, whatever the case is. The easiest thing is the actual drugs. The hardest part was having to really look at myself for who I am, what I am. That sounds weird, what I am. But just like I'm me. And these are the things that make me, and not everyone's going to like that. And not everyone's going to agree with that. And you like all this stuff that a lot of people don't want to talk about. And some people stuff it so far away that they don't even knock on those doors. But for others that end up in like really crappy situations, whether, again, take out drugs, insert whatever you want, video games, again, food, sex, drugs, anything. Just going out, like they're filling a hole. They're trying to fill a void instead of actually working on the thing. So since that experience, going into my 30s and whatnot, like anytime stuff has gotten wonky for the most part, I mean, I'm still human. My first go-to is like, okay, what's my part in it? What did I do? What was my expectations? How did I show up to the thing? Was I pouring into them more than I was taking? Like all this stuff that I learned, you know what I mean? Had I not crashed and burned like a maniac. So,
yeah. So then what was kind of the comeback story there once you were back at your parents and you chose to reset?
I mean, for me, it was pretty awesome because I thought, I peaked. I'll never make that much money because I'm very entrepreneurial. I'm ADHD, like creative, all this other stuff. So at the time I'm like, yeah, I'm screwed. Like that was it. This is now life. I'm going to have to go get a normal job and do normal shit. And that just sounded like atrocious to me. It's just, I'm not wired like that. Honestly, it sounded like prison. Mm-hmm. Started a cafe with my family.
Here in Vegas?
Yeah. Actually, not too far from here.
It's still open?
Yeah. It's still, I since sold it. Okay. So real fast. Here's what was cool about that cafe. At one point, because of my real estate background and my family's real estate background, we had a conversation. Basically, it was, if we don't get rid of this cafe because of the way what's going to happen to the market soon, then we better be prepared to ride the storm or whatever. Sold it. The next person that bought it, 6 months later, the economic collapse. Collapse?
Yeah.
Collapse. Okay. Talking too fast. But anyway, the comeback story was I did that. I did a couple things on the internet and just, ticky-tack stuff. But then I got a corporate job. And that was like completely foreign to me. Ended up being like the best thing I ever did. Like it was probably the greatest experience I ever had. Yeah.
Doing what? Yeah. Doing what?
So I worked at Clear Internet. They used to make it was like super fast mobile internet and these take it anywhere devices and whatnot. And I started as a outside sales rep. So I used to own an ice cream truck in a business. I'd take that ice cream truck. Yeah. So if you go to
the economics behind that after.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you definitely about that.
Just dropping in all of his one-off businesses.
So
I remember being a kid, hearing the ice cream truck like drive by and thinking, I wonder how much those guys make.
Real fast story at the cafe. Mm-hmm. And I realized, okay, I've hit the max of what I could do in a day here at this cafe because it's attached to a library, the Green Valley Library right down the street. So we were only open when their hours were open. And after a couple months, I started doing the calculations and I'm like, we hit a peak. We need outside revenue. So I was like, I'll do a mobile coffee truck because it was more like a coffee shop that served food, not like a cafe. And I'll take it down to the Auto Mall or some of these other streets, and the 75-cent latte that I'm selling for $4.50, which is like 3 ingredients or whatever it was at the time, I'll just do it in volume. And instead of, more people to my cafe, it's like, no, I'll just show up where all the people are. Mm-hmm. I remember, because I'm a car person, wanting to go to the Auto Mall because of just all the salespeople, all the workers. You go there in the morning, there's all this coffee.
Yeah. So
on a whim, I bought a ice cream truck in Arizona. It was a 1974 AM General. It was a box truck, old postal truck, right-hand drive. It was dope. And I go to the Vegas, whatever, to get it the license and all the proper stuff. And homegirl's like, it's going to be like $3,800 and you got to do this test and the fire extinguisher and all this crap because you're making food. And she probably saw like the blood drain from my face. And I don't remember what she said. She goes, she asked me a question. I answered it. Don't remember what it was, but her next words were, you know, if you just do packaged goods, it's only $150 for the license. And I was like, I'll do that. What is that? And she goes, ice cream trucks. And I go, sold. I'll do an ice cream truck. And like, I already spent money because I went half cocked and bought a truck, drove to Arizona to pick it up. I was invested in this thing, like some money. So I couldn't just ditch the idea. I had now had a truck.
You had to commit to it. Yeah.
I had to commit to it. So I started an ice cream truck, painted it baby blue, had white wall tires, those like Mooney rims. I'll show you pictures when we're done. This thing was dope. I had, I have a lot of creative friends, and one of them belongs to a very big graffiti crew. It used to be out here. Now they're like nationwide. I called him. I'm like, do me a favor, paint something dope on the freezer. Like paint some ice cream character. Like I just really made it cool. And instead, before they had First Fridays, it was kind of like a First Friday. I'd drive down to downtown on Fremont Street in front of like Beauty Bar or some of these places that had live music. And I'd park there. So imagine you're in Vegas, you're downtown, you guys are hanging out, having drinks, you're listening to your favorite band. And then you walk outside to see like this custom classic looking ice cream truck playing the music of who you just heard playing in the show, selling random crap like Tab Cola or like, you know, Japanese candies and just like really like kitschy stuff, but also the Ninja Turtle head, the SpongeBob head, the ice tickles and all this shit. And it's 11:30, 1 o'clock in the morning and you're drunk. You can't tell me you're going to go there and spend some money. Like, hell yeah, you are. So like that's what I did for like a while. Ended up taking it to like the car shows, entering it in the car shows, not as a car show. Cause trust me, I did it all myself. So it wasn't that great, but it looked part of the scene. We'd do like 4, 5, 6 grand in a weekend selling waters and ice cream.
Damn.
Like a Ninja Turtle head at the time. I don't know what it is now. Ninja Turtle head was probably anywhere between 40 to 60 cents. And they were like $2.50, $3.50 or whatever on the streets. Oh, you're at a car show? Oh, it's an event, $4.50 all day. You know what I mean? So
dang, 6K weekends, huh?
Yeah, and hanging out, doing cool stuff. You know what I mean? Like
what ended up happening to that business?
So back to clear, right? Mm-hmm. So sold the business.
How much you get for it?
The cafe business?
Yeah, I don't remember, but we didn't lose money. I don't think we made, because keep in mind, this is like right before the collapse. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was either like a break even or like maybe $1,000 if someone wanted to get in the weeds, but it wasn't much. I got the outside sales job at Clear.
Okay.
When I say outside sales job, like literally starting from scratch, I'd have to go on a corner under a tent and put up a flag. By the way, now I'm married and I have one child at home and I have to go sell internet. Like what?
Is this like the equivalent back then of like those DirecTV reps in the Costco that are standing right there?
Okay. So funny story about that. But before we get into that, it was a competitor to Cox Cable. Mm-hmm. So we offered home internet and whatever, but it was kind of like a tech startup, and the guerrilla marketing of it, the boots on the ground was to go, it's publicly traded, go out, acquire as much user base as possible, which I was part of that crew. We launched Vegas. Mm-hmm. So they ended up selling to Sprint, and then SoftBank bought Sprint. It was like a whole thing that we went through, which was awesome. It was like this is why it was the greatest thing in the world. I never went to college, but that was my college because I rose all the way to in the C-suite and was part of the buyout, and I got paid. Like I went to the seat at the table, watched the whole thing from soup to nuts. And I started at that company on Las Vegas Boulevard and Pebble on a dirt lot with a bright green Skittle looking tent selling internet, convincing you to give me your social security and credit card info so I can hook you up with home internet. Like, what? And people did it. This is like 2009, just to give you like context. So in like 3 or 4 short years, busted my freaking ass, got very lucky at the same time because I got promoted like a shit ton. It started with that ice cream truck. I didn't want to be like one of the 70 sales reps in Vegas. Just, you know, I was like, no, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to get noticed at this thing because I want a seat at not that table. I just wanted to be at corporate because I knew, again, at this point, I've done a lot of stuff. I've done sales stuff. Not that I know everything, but I'm like, okay, this looks familiar. They're going to fire almost all of us, probably all of us. How do I stay? So I took that ice cream truck and I made it look like I was like a massive shop out there. And I bought extra flags, and in 3 months I became an account executive, and then I ran Vegas. And then from there I became the GM and then ran Nevada. And then I ended up running half the West Coast. And then for the last 2 years, I was flying all over the country, basically being a consultant to small and large businesses, to sell shit, honestly. Like, it was to sell clear, but the way we were so infused from like Best Buy, Radio Shack, all the way to like this company called Blue Group, who owns those DirecTV tables that you see at Walmart. They previously were clear authorized dealers.
Wait, Blue Group sets up these tables with these salespeople and then partners with like companies like Verizon to sell their
They're just
services?
a reseller,
Yeah, so
right?
I haven't been in the industry for a minute, but I'll speak to how Clear was. So Clear and companies like T-Mobile or, you know, pick one, they never sell their own stuff. They use authorized retailers. Now, Clear had 5 or 6 retailers that service the entire country. There's no corporate stores. One of them was Best Buy. One of them was Radio Shack. And the rest were probably a handful of business owners who, oh crap. Okay. Quick side note. If you want to interview the owner of the Blue Group, I can get you that guy because I still talk to him. But anyway,
I'll take you up on the other.
he owned like 1,500 stores across the United States. So when the Clear buyout, I'm kind of jumping all over, but when the Clear buyout happened, couldn't sell Clear anymore. They started doing Cox and like Dish and someone else. So like these companies will go to, they're essentially distributors, right?
Yeah.
And all the liabilities on them. Like, we're still corporate. I'm still zipping across the country and saying like, oh, you're using the wrong color green. You need to sell it this way or whatever. But I ended up getting into a position where like our job was to genuinely help them make money and grow their business without all the risk, by the way, at least for me. Like, I'd sit through their boardroom meetings. I'd present and pitch to these guys why they need to do X, Y, and Z because it'll grow their 10X revenue. And they're wondering why they lost a couple $1 million. How do we get it back if we have no funds? Oh, well, do these people know where to even pay their bill? Let's teach them how to pay their bill. Like, just doing something like that, by the way, without spending extra money, like, raised their freaking revenue through the roof. So again, for me, it was like a college, like literally freshman year where you're figuring life out. I was on the street being direct sales, right? Like internet. And then graduation, I'm sitting in Bellevue, Washington, half the year figuring out what we're going to do with just all that stuff, right? So I never thought, going back to your original question, I never thought I would have that like second coming. The crappy thing about that, also blessing in that, is they got bought out. So SoftBank went to buy Sprint. Sprint wanted to buy Clear. They all wanted to own Clear because Clear owned the network. And they were, the guy that started Clear started Nextel. I don't know if you guys know that, but yeah, he started that. Essentially all it is they wanted to own, it'd be like me buying a 100-chain pizza restaurant just because I wanted those ovens. I didn't care about the brand, but I wanted those ovens because those ovens produce whatever.
How much did they get bought for? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know. It was a while back. I would have known at the time because I was like all into it because I love this stuff and business and stuff, but I don't even remember. Hundreds of millions, maybe. I don't know.
Did you see any of that?
The hundreds of millions? Yes, I did.
Nice.
No. I know. I definitely got a golden parachute because here's the thing. Right before, I'll finish with this. Right before some changes happened, they pulled some people in and they're like, hey, we're selling the company. Everybody in this room, you're part of the cool kids club. We're going to give you a percent if you stay to the very end. And let's say there was like 100 people in that room. 30 of us actually stayed. Like it was freaking hell. However, the ones that stayed, like it was awesome. Which makes sense for like what I'm about to tell you because of that's how the podcast, that's how everything started, because Sprint bought out Clear. I no longer had a job. What am I going to do? I accepted a job in New York for like 7+ figures. And at the last second, I turned it down to start a stupid podcast in 2013. And my life's literally been different ever since.
So in 2013, podcasting is not what anything like it is today. So where'd you get the idea to start a podcast? Did you ever think it would turn into what it turned into? And what did it actually turn into?
I wanted to start one going back to 2008. And I found a clip where I half-assed attempted to. I believed part of me believed it was going to be as big as it was going to be. And also part of me had no idea. And I was only basing that off of the radio, because I was a fan of radio growing up, and talk radio and AM radio. And because I'm, from a different generation, I'm like, well, you just do the same thing on the internet. Why do I need to go find a channel? And furthermore, why do I have to listen to only X amount of stations when at the time, like YouTube and like all this other stuff, like, hell yeah. So I didn't think, what was the question?
It was,
I want to make sure I get it in order.
Yeah. What made you want to get into podcasting? Because nobody knew about it at the time. And then what did that turn into? It
was that, what I said, because I saw the distribution in it, and because I was just a fan of talk radio. And also right after I turned down that job in New York to do something, I overheard or maybe read or something of this guy in San Diego making at the time $5,000 a month from podcasting. And I listened to his podcast and I was like, if this motherfucker is making $5,000 a month,
do you remember who it
was?
Yeah, who was that?
I don't want to say his name. Yeah, I absolutely remember who it is. I ended up becoming friends with him. Yeah, I don't want to sling mud, but at the time, respectfully, it just wasn't good. Mm-hmm. It was like the McDonald's of podcasting, meaning it was consistent.
Yeah, from a business perspective, McDonald's is great.
Yeah. And by the way, this person, I'm not throwing shade, like he's done very well for himself now. So it's not like, I'm not trying to tear him down, but it just wasn't me. I wasn't trying to be like a Barbara Walters where it's like, 23.6 minutes and drive time, and they could only listen to X amount of, whatever. And all the questions are the same. It just was not.
Oh, I already know who you're talking about. I know
we've talked about this before. Yeah. It just was not for me one iota. I listened to it, by the way, too. I'm not trying to talk bad, but I just remember at the time I was like, if this person's making $5,000 a month, what? I'll mop the floor with him. So started the show end of 2013. Ended up going to see Gary Vee speak in San Diego and spoke to him for like an hour on this rooftop. Coming out of that conversation, I was like, I'm completely doing this wrong. I'm overthinking. It fucked me up. Scrapping the entire show, rebranding it after my name because I couldn't think of anything else. I just called it the Cerrone Show. And I went into it thinking like, what could I talk about for a year straight? Because I had that golden parachute. Ad nauseum for free. If I didn't get paid, what could I do for at least a year straight and give it my all? And it was business and entrepreneur and cool people. Mm-hmm. And that's really who I started interviewing. I started out with the famous comedian friend of mine, and then just leveraged that to the second interview, then the 5th, then the 50th, then the 150th. And at this point, I've probably done over 400 podcast interviews with athletes, celebrities, online celebrities, regular people, business owners, homeless, like everybody.
Well, I was going to say, and to go back to like the other guy making $5,000 a month, mm-hmm. At your peak, what were you making with the podcast?
Here's what's tricky about the podcast. Never had a sponsor. Never sold a product. No. That's a lie. The podcast technically never made a dime. However, the podcast was responsible for everything. So while I was trying to figure it out, I launched an online coaching thing. We were charging like $500 per quarter. I think I built that to almost like 100 people before shutting it down because I was like, that's not what I want to do. But ultimately what came out of it was a production company. So the first year of the podcast, it did 1 million downloads in 9 months. Then another 1 million 4 months after that. That combined with who we were interviewing at the time, famous YouTubers, like it was a lot easier to get people back then because no one knew what the hell podcast was. And anybody that wanted to, like 5 years ago, if I was like, hey, let me talk to you and ask you about your life and make you like the king, you'd be like, hell yeah. Okay. Somebody wants to ask me some shit. Cool. I'll tell you stories. Right.
Okay.
Everybody was saying yes. So I was able to compound a lot of like good guests. Also, everybody at the time, the internet was like, how do I do this? And podcast mics and all this other stuff. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just teach it for free. Equally, a lot of people want to know how to do it. So I started a production. I think I said this already. I started a production company out of it. Then we ended up producing podcasts for like UNLV, done stuff with Misha Tate, Budweiser. I produced a true crime podcast.
Misha Tate's the UFC
fighter. Yep. She just fought recently too. Produced a podcast for this guy that worked at a record company. Real fast. His grandmother got murdered in the 90s. It was a horrific murder. It turned out to be a cold case. Like it was horrific. It was disgusting. And like her paraplegic friend. It was gnarly. Yeah. I'm telling you, this is gnarly case.
Here in Vegas?
No. In Alabama or something like that, or Georgia, one of those two. Small like sports town by some like 20-year-old. Ends up being on Unsolved Mysteries, major TV show. I don't know if you guys know what it is.
Love Unsolved Mysteries.
Are you being serious?
They recreated it on Netflix, yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, dude, great show.
It was on that show, and then the case went cold. So fast forward, a buddy of mine, a director friend of mine, he was like, hey, there's this guy, his grandmother was murdered. He wants to start a true crime podcast. So I'm like, yeah, we'll talk to him, whatever. So we ended up, all three of us teaming together and like creating a show about this case and this guy's search. Flew down there, like started filming and interviewing people, recreating the steps, all this other shit. The podcast blew up. TV caught wind of it. One of the 3 letters, I don't remember which one, and I can show you later, but they end up picking up the story. They do a 60 minutes type thing on it. That blows up. California, I'm paraphrasing too, by the way, I'm jumping. Mm-hmm. California catches wind of it. They get involved. They change the laws on familial DNA in California, end up catching the dude because they were able to trace back. That's how they got it. Familial DNA. This was like a big thing, but
yeah,
they were able to trace back and catch.
Holy shit.
The guy. Is that not gnarly? Like what? Like
where'd they find the guy? Now I want to know about the story.
I'll look it up. It's
so he lived in California?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. He was in California, and whenever they did the familial DNA thing or whatever.
Like Ancestry.com and all that?
It was something, yeah. The way it was and I'm probably butchering it. The way I understand it, it's like everyone's DNA is in some database. So like I commit a crime, we're cousins, right? You get fingerprinted for somehow, some way, and then it like links up and it's like, oh, well, wait a minute. That guy's a cousin of da. Yeah. That's how we're going to get him. And that's how they caught the guy. I'm doing the story no justice because they ended up doing it. We did a season 2 on it because they caught the guy and like all this other stuff. But the production company, Tony Hawk, that's another one, like a lot of cool stuff. The production company at the time I thought it was better to shift and go this way than do like the traditional route, at least from where my mindset was at the time.
So, okay. I mean, me knowing you today, like I'm not surprised that you did all of this. Like,
thank you.
When it comes to networking, you do it beautifully. Yeah. But like, how did you get in the room with people like Tony Hawk or like just all these people that you interviewed? I know you said it was easier to get people, but people aren't just willing to get on a random podcast.
They are if you actually give a shit and you're actually trying to give value or provide first. So for instance, the Tony Hawk and almost all these opportunities came from someone else helping me out. but they wouldn't have helped me out had I not poured into them first. You know what I'm saying? So I'll use you guys as an example. And I don't know if you felt this, but this is my mindset. From day one, when you guys started coming here last year, it was, how do I make this the most enjoyable experience for them as possible, including having water now set up for you guys? Because it was like, okay, last couple of times they asked for water, I'm going to stop asking. I'm going to make sure it's out there for them. And I'm not trying to sound arrogant when I say this, but from like a case study, like I already got your business. You know what I mean? Like we already clicked and you guys know the spiel. Like I don't need to continue to like really pour in and try, but going back to losing everything and getting humbled, I realized during that whole era, you truly, not to sound cliche, you truly get what you put into things. And that includes people. And if you actually give a shit about people, like truly give a shit and want to see them do well and want to see them succeed, you don't have to know them either. Like, and you lead with that, good things will happen. Jumping all over the board here, but like 2023, and we talk off camera and stuff like that. I told you guys some of the struggles I was having. Like I had to push good friends, family members, just people out of my life. And I wasn't rude or anything like that. It just was, I've poured into you and I've done it to a point where I realize like, I'm not getting anything out of it. Cause there's that fine line of like people pleasing and like, you know what I mean? And knowing who you are and what your value is. So when I go back to the podcast thing and I said, who doesn't want to hear themselves? I genuinely tried to make the episode about them. I genuinely dug in and researched and made sure like whatever I could to make them feel like, holy crap, this kid on Skype, not kid, but like, you know, some random dude in his closet, by the way, because that's how I started, on Skype with a Yeti mic in my closet because of the sound. If this janky podcast put this much effort into my episode, like I need to tell my friends. And I'm also a salesperson and a marketer. So, you know, damn well at the end of every episode, I was like, hey, this was great. You know, we had a good time. Who do you think would be a good fit for the show? Oh, you got to interview this person. Da, 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 da. Cool. Okay. Do you have their email? Yeah. Cool. Hey, just interviewed Taylor, Bob, Jane, whatever. We had an amazing episode. I've had other guests on. Would you want to and then just compound and follow up and keep up. I'll send random texts or send cards just to be not silly, but like nostalgic in a way. And I'll take the time to do random shit for people that I don't want anything out of them. It's just good juju because that's how I want to be treated. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You do enough of that and have zero expectation, really, like not to get way off course, but this has to do with business and just everything else. Have zero expectations on the outcome, zero expectations on the outcome. That is the silver bullet, the key, whatever, because you'll be able to move quicker. You'll be able to see what's working and what's not working. You'll be able to see who's bullshit and not bullshit. And by the way, because I own a content studio, I see nonsense in here all the time. People, like kind of how I started, people flexing, just the vibes they come in. Some of them are on the wall. I won't say who, you guys know, we've talked about it. Like I got no problem doing business with certain people or like playing the game, but I, at least for me, want to be aware of who I'm dealing with. Like, what are we about? I'm not going to change how I treat you because at the end of the day, you know, let me start over. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I know for sure. However, it's like my life's mission to make sure, in the best of my ability, I'm only human, that they can never say, well, he did me dirty, or he does bad business, or he treats people like crap, or, you know, he shortchanged me on a deal, or whatever it is. Because not to like completely sell myself out and then I'll shut up. So I want to let you guys speak. It's your show.
This one's about you, man.
I done enough gnarly crap and did people dirty in my younger years and growing up, and just half of it being a stupid kid and the other half just being a shitty person, that, you know, at one point, actually, let me start over. For like 15 years after that, 10, 15 years, I was just trying to pay back the guilt I had from doing. But just living in that practice and habit, like I realized like, oh no, that's the unlock. Like just be the best. If you're doing business with people, make them the most money as possible. First thing I said, and then I will shut up. First thing I said when you guys came today, I'm like, how can I make this the best possible for you guys?
Yeah, he did say that. I can confirm.
I want to make sure
he did say that.
this is because this, you guys say it's my episode. And I appreciate this. Anybody that wants to hear me speak, I always appreciate it. I never take it for granted. But at the same time, there's just the way, again, after that TED talk I just went on, it's really about you guys. How can I help you guys out if any way possible? So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
No, the original one of like the podcast of how
it's a good, it's just overall a good philosophy for business and just relationships. Like try to give as much value as you possibly can, whether that be in a relationship, whether it be in your business, because the more you give, the more you get.
Yeah. And that really, again, just to champion it and say it again, after the production company got into the real estate again, and I applied all my knowledge and I applied it to that. And all that stuff I was talking about, I went into business with that mindset and ended up making, 7+ figures again and doing baller ass shit. And like, I feel weird going into detail, but like done some badass shit. Now in 2006, 7, probably 7, I was in a garage after being homeless for some time, thinking like, okay, I'm going to like off myself after I'm done with doing this thing. As if it was like, I'm going to go to the store to get chicken tonight. Like it's so freaking foreign to me. Like where I was and where I thought like life's over, to like everything that's happened since then. All the way up to now talking to you guys. Like this is freaking dope. Anyway, go ahead.
Been a wild ride for you, man.
No, it has. And I
could see how like that experience has definitely shaped and molded how you just like hold yourself day to day. And in the best way possible.
I was going to say, thank you. And I'd say, and look, it's also like an everyday struggle. Like there's still insecurities. I'm not trying to make this a therapy podcast, but like I still go through all that stuff, but just, I just look at things differently. And if I'm going to now go back to like my entrepreneurial brain, if I'm going to make money, let me start over. My motto is I just want to do cool stuff with my people and make life-changing money. Right. Now it's a fun tagline I say a lot, but like I genuinely try to uphold that. Mm-hmm. Right. Like I'm not trying to say that, live like a maniac and all this other stuff, but like, no, anybody could really do whatever the heck they want. It's all just up here. Like some of the people you've interviewed already are some of this, just basically what you've guys done yourselves. Like, would you ever thought you'd be in the position you are now? Had you not just had a little bit of blind faith and
to me in high school? No, definitely not.
You know what I'm saying?
Dude, we had so much ignorance going into business. Like, I don't think we truly understood what was possible and what we could accomplish basically. Yeah. So it's crazy.
That right there is what gets me up every day. Like being involved in it, hearing about it, being around people that are like, because it's not, I talk a lot of business, like most of our conversations are business or we're talking about business and we're talking about money or whatever. But really what like gets me off and like, not to sound whatever, is the simple fact of, and you said it, like you had enough ignorance to not know any better, but you just did. And now look at your lives now. All you did was just think differently. Mm-hmm. You had zero ego and you had humility and you just didn't know what you didn't know and you stumbled into it. So going back to why I also think my podcast did so well is because I was too ignorant to know any better. I was just like, we just hop on and we just start talking to people. Mm-hmm. Who cares? You know what I mean? And then I just started doing more. And I remember people would be like, how do you do this? Oh my God. And in my mind, these were usually older people. I'm like, what are you talking about? I just jumped on and started talking. How'd you get this person? I just asked. I just tweeted them. I just emailed them.
Sent an email. Yeah.
That's it. Like, and by the way, I'm saying I'm above it. I overthink way too much still. In fact, we've had conversations about this place. But really, when you think about it, like somebody who's struggling right now, who's watching you guys, who's maybe they have kids or a family. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just graduated school and they're like, they were me. I'm not going to college. That's definitely not in the cards. What am I going to do? I'm screwed. I'm going to continue to hang out with my friends, or I'm going to take this bullshit job that I really don't care about, but it's kind of more money than I've ever made before. So I'm going to take it. And then before you know it, you're in some loop and just nothing ever good comes of it. And I'm not saying this for everybody, but the vast majority, because I ask people every day, corner store, all over, I always ask them, if money were no object, and I'm not saying like you're living like this, but like you can get your drink every day, your Starbucks, whatever. You guys can go on vacation, you and your family. You do not have to stress about money. You got savings, you drive the nice car. What would you actually be doing right now? And what industry would you go in? And I've heard the most crazy stuff. Not crazy in the sense like I want to do something weird, but like something so basic that it's literally just, then go do it. Literally what's stopping you? I keep pointing over here because this girl, she wanted to do something and I asked her flat. I go, well, what's prevented you so far? And she's like, I guess nothing. And I go, yeah.
Wait, what is it that she wanted to do?
I don't even remember what it was, but it was something like work in an office or something, or like office-y type shit. I don't remember. It wasn't that. It was some type of office-y type stuff where it's like, again, I paraphrase it because I'm already long-winded as it is. I'm in like to condense it down, it would take her about 6 months to do what she wanted to do on her off hours, because she didn't work full time. So I was asking her like, well, what are you doing when you're not here? Like just digging in, you know?
Yeah.
And then, and by the way, she knew this too, because I think that's what started the whole conversation, right? She knew the internet. She knows the game. And I'm like, why? What? Just go freaking do it. So the excitement of seeing people being able to do something that's truly them and lights them up every day, like that's why I started this place, I think. Well, a bunch of other reasons, but mainly what I get out of it still, and why I still have it after 2 years, is I get to see, I was just talking trash about some of the influencers that come in here, but all the way down to the bottom where it's like, I never knew, you guys seen this, I think, with actually, I won't say that. The people that start and was like, I never thought I can start a podcast, or I never thought I can do YouTube, or I never thought like all that other stuff. I get to see it out here every day. Now I've talked in circles, so you're going to have to help me out.
So I want to know like what's up with future Chris? Because at this point you've built so many different skills and you've done so many different things. And at this moment of time, you have the content studio, you have your real estate stuff going on. Like what's the next step?
I don't know. And that's the problem. And that's literally the season I'm in right now, is trying to figure that out. I
mean, there's a lot of people probably listening to this that are in that season, right?
Yeah.
It's not uncommon.
No. And what's funny is I've been having this conversation literally every day for like the last couple weeks. And I think at least the direction I'm going to go in is still something that has to do with the studio. I'm going to relaunch the show here, the podcast here real soon. I've been doing a lot more like online consulting and all that. So I've been playing around with the ideas of expanding that.
Just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, kind of.
Not necessarily. I'm figuring out like what's the best lane for me, because to your point, I will start and stop a bunch of other things. And it's almost like if I have the ability to do anything, what do I do?
What are you optimizing for though? Because you can optimize for time, you can optimize for money, for the certain lifestyle you want to have. Like, what is it?
It's a good question.
Yeah, that's what I'm here to do, man.
Yeah. I don't want to say both time and money. Because time I almost have too much time. You know what I mean? Like I've had too much time lately too, to go get busy with other things I shouldn't be busy. In fact, you guys from afar have seen me like start to scale back, and you know what I mean? Like, and I've even asked you guys questions. Yeah, I don't hear. I'll answer it like this. I don't know what I can say on this show that would affect it. But what I will say is everything I'm doing for the next, the next 6-7 years is to prep me for the next 10. So I'm in like the foundational building season, if you will. I'm extremely fortunate to be in, and I'm saying that because I understand like where people are, where I've been. I'm taking advantage of that. And I'm taking advantage of, well, let me just see. Because I want to make sure whatever I set up, I don't want to be in a situation where I feel stuck. I don't want to be in a situation where I'm with people that I feel stuck with. Like, you know, when I'm trying to answer this question, I know it sounds like it's wishy-washy, but it's more so like, how do I make what I'm doing now count so I'm not having to go back and change certain things down the road because I've had to rebuild a couple times already. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to do it right this time or the way I want it, truly wanted it, then if it takes me 2 years, 5 years, whatever, then so be it. But I don't know if that answered anything.
I mean, hey, man, if that's the answer, man. Yeah. But I have a good question for you.
Yeah.
What can we do to best provide you the most value of people watching this podcast? Where can they find you? Or if they ever need to reach you for any reason, you sell anything? Can you provide any value to them?
Yeah, no, they can just go on vegascontentstudio.com. I'm picking what social I want to use. They go Blue Gino, I think is what it is. Just look up Chris Cerrone on Instagram. You'll find me. But yeah, just the website, vegascontentstudio.com.
And when you do launch the show, what is it going to be called?
I don't know. So the original show is called The Cerrone Show. It's still up. You can still look it up. It's still finding it. I'm debating whether, like, my team and I are talking about, do we keep the branding and the name? Do we change it?
You'd probably have a lot of viewers come back.
Oh, a crap ton. Yeah. Because when I did a season last year out of this place, and we had, NBA players, we had MLB players, we had YouTubers. Like, it was a dope ass season. Mm-hmm. A lot of people came out of the woodwork from 2015, 2014. They're like, oh my God. So that's where it's like, there's some juice built into those RSS feeds and the links and stuff. I just don't like the name. I never did. It's named after me, The Cerrone Show. But I just remember thinking at the time, like, if I don't launch this podcast, I never will. Because I was him-hawing about the name for a while. I was like...
Dude, The Cerrone Show has such a nice ring to it.
It does.
Like, it sounds
it's
so
gonna be
legit,
the Show,
man. It really does.
Yeah.
I mean, the Selesky Show, it doesn't sound the same.
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Maybe I will keep it like that. But for now, everything is just Vegas Content Studio. And like, by the time this comes out, the coaching and everything else will be on the site and everyone can find it there. But honestly, I just wanted to hang out with you guys and have a good conversation and hopefully give you enough that would help you guys along. So I appreciate this. And real quick before we end this, like, just thank you for everything, because our conversations are great. And every time you guys come in, like, it's a breath of fresh air when you guys come in. And I appreciate working with good people. So thank you.
Likewise, man. No, I appreciate you being on.
Yeah.
This was awesome.
Yeah.
This was a banger.
Hopefully.
Yeah, cool. I learned some things about you that I didn't know yet. So I think it was really cool to have this conversation, dive a little bit deeper. And I think people that are listening to the show are going to get a lot of value from your story, because that was a wild one. I don't know the next time we're going to have a story like that on the podcast.
Well, I got receipts for all of it. We could do a part 2 whenever, but I got receipts for all of it, pictures and videos. So
we'll do a part 2 where you got to tell at least like 2 to 3 of those stories from your benders on the private jets. And...
I'll tell you whatever you want. Porn company. There's so much like random stuff.
You leave them on a cliffhanger. That's a good spot to wrap it.
All right. Peace.
Peace.